Hello, flower friends. I want to talk about something that was brought up in the mastermind that I thought was really impactful, a great question, and something that maybe has crossed your mind when you are been on this path of wanting to grow your business, or maybe even just like you've done a couple weddings and you're like, what would it look like to go bigger? So the question from one of my mastermind girls, who I absolutely adore, was, what would it? Is it possible for me to double my revenue next year? Do I actually think that's possible? And my answer is absolutely yes. I think that that is a question that a lot of you guys are probably wondering. Like, I really want to quit my day job. I really want to go big. I really want to create this different life. I want something different for my family. I want my life circumstances to change. This is like the missing equation for so many things. And I want to talk a little bit about how. How do you actually do that? And I do think that that really depends on where you're at. So, the first thing that I want to really talk about with this is that you need to understand where you're at to really know where you want to be. And a question I often will ask almost any small business owner. I literally went out to lunch with one of my favorite videographers and asked him this. It's not a question people ask very often, is like, what is your revenue? And most people don't know. So if you don't know or you're guessing, it's time to actually understand what your revenue is. What is your gross revenue? And especially if you have shenanigans going on with your personal finances and you got everything all interlaced, you need to undo that shit for once. You need to go and get separate accounts. If you haven't listened to I actually did 2 different episodes on this on Profit First. I would definitely dig in to reading that book by Mike Michalowicz. It's called Profit First. And then I would listen to those podcast episodes because they will help kind of start guiding you in the right direction. But the next thing is, okay, this is what your gross revenue was. And gross revenue is with what you collected from customers. Next part is, what was your net revenue? You can have really huge numbers for gross revenue, but overbought, had too much labor, didn't charge enough, had too much expenses commensurate to get you those additional weddings. I have seen several different tactics for people to grow their business that are kind of like fast and furious. One of them is styled shoots. I call them styled shoot whores. Like, they've just gone balls in, like, and done a ton of styled shoots so that they're getting a ton of exposure, they're networking a ton, but there's a good amount of cost with that. But it has been very effective for someone in my market to really grow their business. I've also seen it kind of like somebody just kind of slink away in the night because they basically made no money and then had to call it. Like, this isn't profitable. This isn't working. Other ways I've seen people grow their business is Instagram ads, like doing sponsored posts. It's definitely a way that I know a lot of photographers, especially videographers, dabble in that. But I know a good chunk of florists in my market that are diving in to those type of ads. When you're spending more to acquire a customer, you need to make sure, for one, that the volume is making sense for what you're paying. Your profit margin still makes sense with what it is costing to acquire that customer. I, over all of these years of my business, have only ever paid for marketing in 2 different ways. The first one is I joined Minnesota Bride, and I think I've talked about this in other episodes, but joining something like that helped me get published. They have kind of a pay-to-play mentality, which isn't great, but it has helped me get published. I think last issue I got published 3 weddings styled shoots that I did, the actual installation rockstar workshop with the amazing orange slices. I did a styled shoot that I put together and kind of curated. That got published. I got um, another wedding, and then I was in somebody's ad, and then I had my own ad. And then because I helped sponsor my silk flowers at something, I also got another bonus ad. And so, like, that exposure has been impactful because I have people email me and say, I saw you in Minnesota Bride. But I don't only do it for that. I'm doing it also because it's kind of a network and it's marketing myself, it's putting myself out there. It shows that I'm like really putting myself out there in my name. It's also helping with SEO because I'm getting published in there on blogs and things like that, which are feeding back to the SEO of my site. So that's really the only thing other than Zola, because I've paid for leads on Zola. That is about the only thing that I've ever spent marketing on in all these years with the volume of revenue that I have. So I have organically, basically, because I can't account a ton of weddings to Minnesota Bride. I can account some weddings to Zola, but I wouldn't say I'm less than 5%, but I've only spent maybe like $500 in a whole year being in the unlimited kind of package, etc. Maybe it's not even that. $75 for like 3 months. So so $300. Very cheap. If you're not on Zola, make sure you get a Zola listing because it definitely, to me, has been a good investment. But that is, stepping back and making sure that your business is being profitable as well. When you think about from a profitability standpoint, if 10% in my market is automatically going to taxes, that is sales tax. So if I have $100,000 in sales, $10,000 of that is pretty much going to pay sales tax. Then I have my product costs. If you are making sure that you're charging correctly, you should have 25-ish% of that be flower costs. Then let's say that because of the volume you've done, you've secured additional labor. So right now we have $35,000 of that $100,000 already ate up. So then let's just say that we have allocated an additional $20,000, I would say, to paying freelancers. So right now we have 35, 45, 55. So then you have some everyday business costs. Let's just say that, running your website and doing whatever, let's just say that's 5%. So if we have 10%, 25%, and then we have, let's just say, another 20%, and then another 5, we have 25, 35, 45, 55, 60. Most floral businesses that I have seen, if you're running like a 45% profit margin before you pay that's pretty good. So looking at those numbers and understanding, and then maybe even understanding like how is this relevant to profit first, is a super helpful exercise. Then I also like to dig one level deeper. Okay, are you doing a la carte and full service weddings? Because then you should be tracking, what is my average a la carte wedding order? What is my average full service wedding order? It's growth and progress, and you should celebrate it if you upped your average year over year. That is something to celebrate. You had growth. So getting a base understanding, volume of weddings, gross net profit, then averages, and then, of course, the number. So this is like your scorecard going into that new year, which we're not that far away from the new year, guys. So going into 2026 with this scorecard. All right, then from there, it's going, okay, how did I get the weddings that I had? Keeping track. This one was a referral. This was a friend. This one, I met a wedding planner and they referred me. Understanding where your business has came from, because if something is working, then we need to dig more into that. I have seen people have a good success with Zola. If you've listened to the podcast, you know that I think wedding planners are a huge source of business, but this can be anything. If you do funerals and you know partnering with X funeral home, your average for funerals with them has been 350 per funeral that you've delivered there. And I know that seems really hard to keep track of, but if you start getting a pattern, okay, I get this many orders from this funeral home and my average is this, then you know, hey, I can try and maybe make a brochure for them that has some of my higher end designs. Or maybe I take one lower end funeral arrangement off of my site, or I change one that is constantly getting ordered, maybe because of color palette, size, or price point, and I up that by $8. You make slight tweaks, but if you don't know where you start out with, you don't know how things are performing, you're throwing spaghetti against the wall. So getting those base metrics, understanding then what is fueling those metrics. Where is my business coming from? Where is my, like, if you've had my biggest events have come from planners and event designers. Hands down. Like, those are my biggest uh, things that have made the difference in my business. This year, had just in the last 2 months from a recent connection that I have worked for quite some time to really connect with, I started getting a good chunk of referrals, and I've gotten 6 consultations or up to bat with their planners, and I've booked 4. So very high close rate as well. And today I just got a email proposal request that literally I think is for one of their relatives. Like, how cool is that? Things are moving in the right direction. So I know if I really wanted to go and grow my business, at this point, this number that I'm staying at around this 3 to 350, that feels really comfortable with me with how much I want to work, with the responsibilities that I have as a mother, how serious that it is for me to prioritize my motherhood and to prioritize me as a human. So that includes like me going to pottery class, that includes me going to CrossFit, that includes me being able to go and get a massage, like whatever it is. Me being able to do my mastermind, me being able to do one-off coaching, which I've been doing so many. It's been so fun to see where people are at in their business that are wanting to grow, and like all of these little tweaks that I help them make like have made huge differences. Yeah, it was super fun. Somebody today they text me because they're local and I help them actually map out their whole order, told her where to order it from, we mapped out everything, even like what she should be doing every day, because this is her biggest week ever. And it's just fun to see because like that was me before. I was winging it. Like all of a sudden, like I had 5 weddings in a weekend. And this could happen to you guys. If you're going to grow your business, if you're going to double, I want you to really step back and go, do I have that in me? I don't right now want to double my business. I probably could figure it out, but I don't want to because I'm at a point that feels really good. I want you to get to that point where this feels really good. Like my business feels successful. I have the tools and resources to support it, but I also can be like living this life of alignment. And it's when somebody grows their business so fast, but doesn't have any systems, doesn't have any structure, doesn't really have support. Because, I mean, I don't know, when I was growing my business, there weren't Floral CEO mastermind. There wasn't support like that. I literally had 9 weddings in a weekend and I figured it out. Do I recommend that? No. It probably cost me a ton of money making really not so great mistakes. But after 1,700 weddings, like there is not much. That's actually kind of one of my funny paraphrases that I'll say at the end, I'll just say, just to let you know, I asked them if they've read my About Us section on my website. I say, it's okay if you haven't. I know you've probably been doing a ton of research, but just to let you know, I've been a florist for 30 years now. I've done 1,700 weddings. So there is not much that is going to surprise me on the week at your wedding. And then I sometimes will joke, depending on the bride, the zombie apocalypse could happen and they would still have wedding flowers because I would figure it out. After that much experience, you figure things out. You need to know in your heart, are you really all in? That you want this? Because I have also coached people who are like, oh my God, I want this huge business, but honestly, lazy as fuck. Have all these big ideas, but no execution. Or they will try something for such a short amount of time. How do you fucking know it would work? You have made your decision and are putting up all of these basically like cones in the way of your success. And a lot of course, entrepreneurs have ADHD. And so, like, let's just blame that, or let's blame, somebody doing something, or let's blame our family. I mean, I have heard the gamut over the years of all these excuses. So you need to decide there are no more excuses that are getting in the way of my success. And so that next step is really after you understand where you've been, what our averages look like, where our customers came from, you need to decide if you're all in. If you are willing to do the work, even though it's hard. It is not fun for me to get up at 6:30 in the morning to get my kids off the bus and then to go work and then to go to CrossFit or then to go and get flowers and then come and then work after they go to sleep. But I would rather be present with them. I make all these choices that make that okay. But you need to know that if you're really wanting to double your revenue, this is going to be work. Of course, there are ways to mitigate and make this easier. So the next thing is I'm committed. I'm ready to do it. Then how are you going to do it? And do you have the support? One of the biggest shifts, and I think that this shift happened when I met my husband, is that you need to have a support infrastructure around your success because it doesn't feel good when you have somebody saying to you, all you do is work. You're never present with me. You're not spending any time with me. And then there's all this anger around your success. And then there's guilt and shame. And I have had relationships that has been very integrated into the scenario. Especially I think I've shared this, but I was married when I was younger. I married one of my motorcycle buddies because he was a very nice friend and he was really good with kids. I just thought he had all these qualities, but like lazy as hell. Like hated me working hard, even though I was the breadwinner in the family. And he worked like at a sign company wrapping vehicles and just not lighting the world on fire. Inevitably, it caught up that our success habits and our goals were drastically different. And you also can't marry one of your friends because that's just not a good enough reason to marry them just because you are buddies with them. So I've learned a lot along the way, but I know that that partner, when I met my now husband, and like he believes in me, and I've talked about this because I feel like this is such a critical role. But I also know that it doesn't need to come from your partner necessarily. If they aren't your cheerleader, but they aren't your boo section, you can find support in other ways. It was so sweet. One of the other mastermind girls that I absolutely adore, she has been growing her business and trying to figure out how to scale, and her husband's super supportive, but somebody that she cared deeply about had passed away. That was her biggest cheerleader, she said. And then she said, next to you. And that can be true. You can find a cheerleader in a coach, in your best friend, in a B&I group, in some system that is fostering people who want to kick ass and take names, people who want your success to be inevitable, who have potentially, like myself, I'm probably for many of you, at a point of success that looks appealing. Like, would it be nice to have a business that makes multiple six figures and I work part time and take care of my kids and take care of this farm and do all the things that make me happy? Like, is that appealing to you? If that's appealing, then I'm the coach for you. But what if you're like, I really want somebody that owns a retail flower shop and it's $1 million? Never have been interested in that. So I'm not the coach for you. Like, find somebody who's doing the things that you want to do. Find a floral bestie that maybe their business isn't lit on fire, but maybe they just care. They just want you to be successful. And I have seen one of my mastermind girls and friend, they like just support each other in this way that just, it's so like giving. And I can see that they care so much about each other and they help each other out. And there are people like that out there. I had somebody reach out to me that joined the Minnesota Floral Collective, and they were like on the edge of Iowa. So I approved them. And they were like, I want to do the same thing in Iowa. I want to bring florists together. Like, we need each other. We can support each other in so many ways that are bigger than what we think is possible, because I know, because I created that here in Minnesota. You can do that where you're at. It takes time. I manually approve every single person, so I make sure that we don't have weirdos in the group, for one, or people who are hobbyists that are looking to figure out how to do their wedding. Not my jam. But I think that creating this company or these people who are just supporting you, that is a key ingredient to you being successful in this. Then you need to have a plan. Looking at what is working and then going all in on those things. What I often see when somebody's really trying to grow their revenue is they throw spaghetti noodles all over the wall and they do every single thing, and half of them don't make any sense. I'm going to start doing workshops, and I'm going to go start doing pop-ups, and I'm going to do CSAs, and I'm going to do weekly deliveries, and I'm going to go and try to get corporate events. And I mean, you literally think of the pie in front of you, and you have just cut your pie into 1/16 of effort towards everything. And one thing that I really dive into when I coach someone is that you need to make sure that, like, if weddings are really working, they're really profitable, how can we make that a bigger piece of the pie? Maybe with similar effort from a revenue standpoint. What are we doing that's working with this? What is our ROI? Like, what is your hourly wage? And I will run that like with funeral work, when you're doing dailies, when you're doing a wedding, when you're doing workshops. Try to figure out what is your before, of course, minusing your expenses, your hard expenses before you pay yourself. So minusing sales tax and your product cost. What did you make an hour doing that project? So let's just say you did a workshop, and I've talked about this, I think, recently on the podcast. On average, I think most workshops you're going to spend 10 hours on. Seems really simple in concept. But by time you develop marketing material, you market it, you go and get your materials, plan out your materials, find your containers, go get the flowers, order them, divide them up, teach it, and clean up after it, 10 hours. And let's just say that you sold 10 tickets and $85 a ticket or something like that. But then you had to pay the venue part of it. So let's just say that after flower cost, you netted $40 a person. So it was $45 by the time you did something for the venue, bought the container, bought the flowers. And honestly, this is a good margin from what I've heard from a lot of florists that do a lot of workshops. Then $40. So you have had 10 people, so you made $400. So your hourly wage for that, this is before you're minusing all of your business expenses, putting your website on, everything that it takes to turn the lights on in your business, is $40 an hour. Does that feel good to you? Some people, that's great. That's not enough for me. I do not want to make $40 an hour. With my experience and what I could be investing my time in, I can find something that has a higher hourly ROI. So when you're looking at, okay, all of these things that you could do, and it feels so intuitive to just go, I'm going to try everything. Before you add anything, make sure you are maximizing what you are doing. That is your key ingredient. Make sure you are a freaking ninja at your inquiry process, at like this whole process you have of intake to booking a client is on point. If you're doing funerals, like that whole process, you have reached out to every funeral home that's in whatever mileage of your business, and you have really tried hard and because then you know that you did it and you've really pushed yourself and pushed this revenue opportunity. From there, you can go and look at one other thing, add one at a time, one revenue source. If you are mastering weddings, full service weddings, look at adding a la carte. It is a perfect opportunity for people who want to have simpler interactions with clients with lower budgets. So could you add a la carte? Could that bring in 10 weddings at $1,500 each? I have a florist in Iowa who has added this and has crushed it. And I have had other florists add this and crushed it. You just need to have really clear, refined processes that not everybody is like wanting to change. You're doing it at a lower price point from a minimum standpoint because it's simple for you, because it doesn't need consultations, a bunch of digging around, simple. So if that could be a revenue potential, but you've really figured out full service, or you figured it out to a point that like this a la carte thing seems really easy. Then you have developed, like, this is really working in my business. Like, I did 7 weddings and it was an average of $4,500. Okay. Well, if we want to double it, it might be hard to go from $4,500 to $9,000. So what could we do to maybe we could up our weddings to $6,500? And then we build a strategy to try and upsell people, to try and offer premium options, to offer what I call like miscellaneous fun things that somebody didn't think of. And those are additional things that you can market to help boost your average wedding. Of course, then just charging more on those items as well is an effective strategy, as long as your name, reputation, and the work you're producing supports that. Then you also probably need to do more than 7 weddings. If we want to double it, we're going to have to work harder. We need to get in front of more people. So that, to me, if I knew, not only do I want to increase my average wedding by, let's just shoot a goal. If you want to just say, I want to increase it 20%. So on a $4,500 wedding, that would be $800, $850. So I have increased, that is a portion. So if I do an increased on 7 weddings or whatever it is, and I increased it by $800, that would be, I'm just spitballing, I think $5,600 and something. But that's not doubling. So we need to figure out, we probably need to do more. And we probably need more opportunities in getting in front of people to book more. There's one strategy to increase our average wedding, but the next strategy is we just need more. So how are we going to get in front of more people? We're going to market with planners. We're going to go to every networking event that we can and really market ourselves. We're going to make sure that we are maybe doing some exposure like open houses that aren't riddled with expense. We're going to try and maybe do one styled shoot that really creatively is showing what we're capable of. And from a standpoint of marketing yourself, maybe you're doing it with key vendors that are just really good vendors to partner with because they are going to get you in with another planner, or maybe you get in with a planner doing this style shoot, or you get in with the venue. Or my business has changed a lot because I do a ton of weddings at Essence Event Center and I am their preferred vendor, but I am like there every month. Usually I've missed one in the last year for their monthly open house. And I have brought in my silk flowers there. I have done a bunch of things like that. But that exposure, that continued exposure for their open doors and then the open house has led to a lot of weddings. I am their go-to florist. I can, with confidence in my emails, say I have the most experience out of any florist at that venue. Hands down. Not a question. And that has value. That has merit. And when you start to get more experience, you're able to start positioning yourself as the expert, as someone who has value, and as someone who that this person wants to hire. But let's just say it's not weddings. Let's just say it's funerals, or let's just say it's not a big fan of dailies, corporate events. You need to get in with planners who specialize in corporate events. You need to go in and really start networking at things like Nice, whatever, Ilia. You need to start going to those type of event specific that are less wedding-y and more corporate-y. Then, hopefully, that will start to build some connections to get those events. You need to make sure you got an event page on your website. You need to make sure that you're marketing as one of your content pillars on your social media that you do events. All of the things like kind of start to work together like in a wheel. It's all spokes on a wheel that are driving your business forward. So we need to get all of the spokes on your wheel running in the same direction, all in support of that one goal. I am rooting for you. If this is a big dream, I would love for you to DM me on Instagram and tell me all about it. What is your big dream? And also, why? I think often somebody will tell me something like that they want. I know exactly why this girl wants to double her revenue. And that why drives you so much more. I knew when I left my corporate job and I was 39, pregnant, like this corporate job was just draining me. I had lost my mother about 9-ish months before that. Like I just was so depleted, but I knew that I was so on fire for this to happen. And I started to like just really lay out like all of these spokes on the wheel driving me forward. I knew my why was my children. And honestly, probably a great decision at that point because then frickin' COVID happened not that far off. Literally after I quit my corporate job in November of 2019, not far after did COVID happen. And then I was literally home with my daughter on Zoom calls in kindergarten, you guys. And with my daughter having autism, I literally it was crazy because not only she had gone to 6 months of kindergarten and then we were online and we did that for 2.5 years because she was also scared to death of COVID, scared to death of all these things. And we had a nanny that had a kiddo that had cancer when they were little, so immunocompromised. So it was like this crazy world. And like, if I wouldn't have quit my job, Like, I couldn't have kept her home like that. I couldn't have supported her in this. And honestly, like, I wouldn't have felt good about bringing Bodhi to daycare during COVID. But that's me. And everybody makes choices. But like, I feel so happy because that was my right next move. Stepping into my business in the way I did. And you guys, 2020, I still did 42 weddings. Like, it did not shut a lot of my business down. And then the next year after, I think I did 55. And then the year after, I think I did like 42 again. And then, I mean, like, my business didn't slow down. And that's because I built this wheel of success. And if you're like, I have no idea what that even looks like, send me a message on Instagram. We can do a discovery call. We can chat for 15 minutes and really see if doing some one-off sessions or monthly coaching or even joining the mastermind would be a good fit for you. Sometimes you need a map. Sometimes you need, what do you think, from somebody who's been there? And I would love to help be that ear for you if you're really needing it. This is your time. It is nothing but blue skies from here if you want it. I know in my heart there is so much potential out there. Thank you so much for listening, flower friend, and you have an amazing flower-filled week.